Hey y'all, today we're going to talk about breastfeeding and breast milk and how to improve or increase your supply. I have a few notes written down, so you may see me look down a little bit, and that's just so I can see where I'm at and make sure I didn't miss any points. All right, so first I want to say that if you're having issues with your supply, you should talk to your doctor. Ways that you can know that you're not having a supply issue are if your baby's having regular pees and poops when they're having their diapers, as well as the colors of these pees and poops when they're using the restroom. Also, when they're eating, you're going to be looking for them to actually be swallowing and gulping, as well as how they're acting after you feed them. If they're really fussy every time you feed them, or that means they're not getting enough. And if they're not getting enough, your doctor would let you know, because their weight wouldn't be going up, and those are things that the doctor would look for. One of the important things about breastfeeding and how to help your supply is make sure you are drinking enough water, you're going to sleep, and you're getting rest. Breast milk is built a lot off of water. That is super important. So, super important. Make sure that you're getting all of your water, make sure you're eating, and make sure you're resting. Producing breast milk requires energy. If you aren't doing these things, you're not going to have the energy to produce the milk. And you also want to make sure that you're stimulating yourself. So after your baby feeds, if you pump 10 minutes, that would be more stimulation. That tells your body to produce more milk. So you need to increase the prolactin from the stimulation. If your baby only feeds on one side, you need to pump on the other. You have to pump on the other, or your body will start to not make that milk because it feels like you don't need it. If your baby feeds on one side, you can't just switch them to the other side after a few minutes. It has to be enough time for them to have gotten the hind milk. And once they get the hind milk, which is the fatty part, then your body knows that it has emptied and it will make more. Your boobs are never really empty completely, but the hind milk is kind of like the main part at the end. And what's going to happen is they're going to get a second letdown. You want to get another letdown when you're pumping. When you're pumping, you look for the letdown. If you aren't getting milk while you're pumping, keep pumping. If you're in the middle of a letdown, but you've been pumping for 10 minutes, let that letdown finish before you stop pumping. Another important thing is, if you're trying to increase your milk supply, there's a concept called power pumping. During power pumping, for roughly an hour, you would pump for 20 minutes. And then you'll rest for 10. Then you might pump for 10. Then you rest. The times aren't like set in stone, but you pump, you rest, you pump, you rest. And you do that for roughly an hour. And that gives your body the stimulation that it needs. And that tells your body that you want to produce more milk. And this could take a week to 2 weeks to give you results, but that gives your body the opportunity to know that, hey, we're trying to get the milk, we're using the milk. Because if you're just having the milk, at first people might start off with a strong supply, and then they're not stimulating themselves, so they lose their milk. Essentially what will happen when your milk dries up. And that happens because you're not giving your body the stimulation to let them know that you want the milk to come out. You're using the milk. So power pumping is important if you're trying to improve. So that's something that you could look into. Another important thing is letting your baby actually nurse long enough. If you aren't nursing, then you're pumping long enough. And if you're pumping or nursing and you have extra milk in the fridge, and you use that for feeding. If you use that for feeding, you still need to stimulate yourself when your baby's eating. I know for myself, say if my baby eats 4 ounces, I can get easily 4 to 5 ounces on each side. So don't feed at one point and then give them a bottle the next feeding, and then not stimulate yourself because you basically are sitting out of feeding because you have this bottle left over. Because that tells your body that you don't need that milk. So that helps you start decreasing your milk. And if you don't want to decrease your milk, you need to make sure you stimulate yourself. Every time your baby's eating, you should be pumping, you should be latching, one of the two. Okay, so those are just super important things to look at. You want to make sure that stimulation and that you're actually eating, drinking, and resting in order to have the energy to even produce this. Stimulation is your main important thing. There are all kinds of supplements and things out there that people are taking. I wouldn't take any of those without talking to my doctor. I know you can buy them out of the store, but I would talk to my doctor first just to be sure, because they know things pertaining to your situation that you may not right off know, or that you may not understand. Overall, you want to make sure that you're eating, resting, drinking your water, and staying stimulated in order to produce that milk. And that's going to be the end of this video. That's all I have for you today. Make sure you like, you subscribe, and you comment.